Welcome back to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. My name is Coach Sheffer. I am your host, and today we have another special guest. We have Coach PJ Gibbs on the podcast tonight. Coach Gibbs is the defensive coordinator, outside linebacker coach, and recruiting coordinator for Palmetto Ridge High School in Naples, Florida. Coach, welcome into the podcast. I appreciate you coming in.
Coach, excited, man. It's going to be good. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. First, before we jump into the regular questions, I know that you have a couple of books that you have written and you have some stuff on CoachTube. Could you take a moment to kind of, self-promote yourself a little bit?
Sure. So over the quarantine, I wrote two books. The Right Defense for Your Program was the first book that I wrote. Basically it's just through my experiences of 21 years of coaching and learning and things that I've learned from people all around me, defensive coaches, head coaches, people that I've worked for. It's got some good schematical stuff in it, good practice planning. It's geared more towards like a younger coach, like an older youth coach or a coach just starting out, but there are some things in there for an older coach. And then the second book, the volume 2, actually is more advanced schematically and kind of like our nickel pressures and how we defend empty and then some three-man stuff. And then collaborated with a bunch of coaches all over the country, which I really enjoyed doing the fourth chapter, which was myself, Adam Harvey, and Eric Kaspowitz, talking about how we as defense coordinators game plan for the week and how we develop our call sheets and things like that and practice plans. And then the fifth chapter was a bunch of us, Jason Mons, myself, John Weaver, John Torrey, my brother-in-law, Justin Kramer, who's at SEMO, on how to build a culture from different perspectives, from the high school through the college games. So that was pretty cool. Got a lot of questions about that. A lot of people, contacted me because, we were all sitting around kind of staring at each other for some months now. And, it was pretty neat, and had the opportunity to have Coach Don Brown from Michigan do the forward for me. I've known Coach Brown for over 15 years, and Coach Aaron Ingram from USA Football, who's a dear friend of mine. And the second book, I had my high school linebacker coach, Don Reed, do the forward, as well as Steve Speck out at St. Xavier in Ohio. I've known Coach Speck for some years now through USA Football. And the CoachTube stuff is multiple courses, actually kind of coincide with the book, but it's a lot of the clinics that I gave over the quarantine, but it's got some, more stuff in there. It's the right defense for your program, and there's the 3 high safety stuff. There's defending the triple option. There's a multiple pressure one. So there's a bunch on there, and I always do bundles and stuff to take, percentages off like that, but that's kind of like what I've been doing over, before our season started down here in Florida.
That's great stuff, Coach. This next question that I have for you, this is one that I ask every coach that comes onto this podcast. It's because I have this fascination hearing every coach's story, because we all seem to have our own unique path to where we are today. So can you take a moment to kind of tell us about your football and your coaching journey? Basically, how did you end up where you are now?
Yeah, well, I can't believe it's been 21 years since I started. I played at a small high school on the shore in New Jersey. Nothing like the TV show that people might associate it with, but small town Americana. Manasquan, New Jersey is like a Norman Rockwell painting. They still do the Thanksgiving game. There's a parade and a bonfire. So any 1950s nostalgia you could think of, that's kind of like the town that I grew up in. Played for a great head coach, Vic Caboo. Won 17 state championships as a coordinator and a head coach, and was my mentor growing up. And really the reason I got into coaching was because of him and my coaches at Manasquan High School, and went and played at small FCS school, St. Peter's College in Jersey City, and played 4 years there and got my degree, and decided I wanted to come back and coach. And I reached out to Coach Caboo and said, hey, do you mind if I'm going to student teach for Coach Price, who was my linebacker coach at the time. And I actually ended up working under Coach Price as the DC at Manasquan a few years down the road. And he said, absolutely. So I started coaching in 2001 and varsity linebackers, and kind of parlayed that into 5 years of being a position coach. And I was fortunate enough to become a coordinator at Mattawan High School, which is a little bit north of us, for another Hall of Fame head coach, Joe Martucci in New Jersey. And I was 26 at the time. I got my first coordinator job at 26. So it was an honor for me to really work for those two guys. And I was there for 3 years, and we coached some really good kids, and we had had a really good defense. I think 2008, we're number 9 defense in the Shore, and we'd started all sophomores the year before, and we were jumped from 32nd to 9 in a year. And then after that, I got the bug to go back home, and came back to work for Pete Cahill at Manasquan, who was my DC when I played. And I was there from 2009 to 2013, became the coordinator there in 2011, and kind of a dream of mine because, all the rich traditions we have at my high school growing up. And, got married in 2009, and we bought our first house, and, we had my daughter in 2011. And coach, as with 2 kids, it's at most times you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're living in New Jersey. The taxes are insane, and we're living by the beach. And my brother-in-law at the time was analyst at the University of Missouri, and he had been, in charge of recruiting for Collier County, Florida, and down here in Naples. So my dream was to become the head coach at Manasquan and live my days out there, and that's it. And my wife and I, we were talking about possibly moving. She had gone to Clemson, so she loved the Carolinas. And I said, you know what, I don't want to sell our house to rent. We can find somewhere to have a better life. So my in-laws had moved down here in 2013, and I just sent a bunch of resumes out. I got a job offer in North Carolina. Just didn't work out for us schematically. And then we were coming down here for Easter in the spring of 2015, and I had a couple interviews. I got offered 2 jobs. Ended up taking a job at Gulf Coast High School down here in Naples, and sold our house in 10 days. And we packed the kids up July 2nd of 2015 at 1 a.m. and got down here the next day around 2 p.m. after we stayed in Jacksonville, and have been here ever since. I was at Gulf Coast for 3 years. We won the first district title in the history of the school, which had only been open since 1998 in 2016. And then right now I'm at Palmetto Ridge. We have the number 1 team in Southwest Florida. We're 4-0 with 4 consecutive shutouts defensively. And I just found out today that, knock on wood, as my wife said, we're the only team in the state of Florida not to let up a point this season so far. So our kids are phenomenal. Our coaching staff is great. I can't say enough good things. I got a former player of mine that I coached at Madawan. That's my DB's coach and co-DC, Nick Citro, and they're doing a great job. So kind of like how we went from Manasquan, New Jersey to Naples, Florida.
Wow, Coach. That's very impressive, what you guys have been able to do so far this season. That's pretty cool. And that's coming from – I'm impressed because I was a defensive coach the last couple of years, so I know all of what it takes to kind of get to that level. Leadership, though, that's what I really want to talk about right now for the next question. It's something I've been doing a lot of a deep dive into ever since COVID hit. How would you describe your own personal leadership style as a coach?
I mean, I think looking at kind of like how I've evolved over the years, obviously when you're a younger coach, really you want to win, right? You want to win, you want to win. And as you get in this business for a little while and figure out that it's really servant leadership, right? Like you're there for the kids and winning will come, this, that, the other thing. But I think as far as a leader, I think leading by example, but also showing the kids that you're human and holding yourself accountable and admitting when you're wrong. Don't not being prideful and saying, well, this is my way or the highway. And, especially when it comes to kids today, they're a lot different than when you and I grew up. Just the way the world is, it's changed. So I think you have to be very transparent in that aspect. But I'm from the Teddy Roosevelt is kind of speak softly but carry a big stick type of diplomacy, right? So I'm not going to scream and yell all the time, but I have high expectations for our kids, and the kids know that. And they know when they make a mistake that if it's something that had been explained to them in a meeting, then they're going to get jumped a little bit. If it's something like, example for today, we didn't get a chance to go in and meet before practice because we get, lightning down here or whatever. So we went right out on the field and did a walkthrough for about a half an hour. And, some of our assistant coaches were kind of getting on our kids. And I said, hey guys, we didn't meet on this. We walked through it. They're going to make mistakes. It's new stuff that we're doing. So don't jump on them. Like, you know, it's kind of like in the sense where like, I think of Bo Schembechler, like when you are like, the kids are doing a really, really good job, you know, that's when you be really, really hard on them because you want to chase perfection. But when they're screwing stuff up and it's stuff that you really didn't go over, don't jump on them like that. That's when you coach them up. And that's when you kind of, you know, pull them aside and say, hey, that, you know, what are you looking at? What's your read? Okay. Your hands need to be here, you know, for certain positions and things like that. So I would say I've evolved at that, you know, as I've gotten older. But I would say as far as leadership style, I would say like, I'm not going to do something or say anything that I wouldn't have done as a player. And I think the kids respect me with that because they know that I'm upfront and honest. And I think honesty is a lost art in today's world. I'm extremely upfront and honest with our kids when it comes to our scheme, what we expect of them, and then also from the recruiting perspective.
Good stuff, Coach. For me, you know, I'm not the one being interviewed, but for me, the whole leadership thing, the biggest thing that I've seen is that everyone says, be true to who you are, and don't try to be somebody else. When I was a little younger than I am now, I tried to be, you know, the rah-rah, you know, yelling every play kind of coach. And it wasn't me, and I didn't feel right. And I felt exhausted at the end of the day. And then now I'm being true to myself. I'm that relationship coach, you know, like if I'm yelling, there's a problem, you know, I usually don't yell. Yep. That kind of thing.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. And I think too, like you talk about I think you can look at other coaches. Like I'm obviously as a defensive guy, I'm a big fan of, you know, Coach Brown and I have a great relationship. So I love his leadership style. The players love him, you know, and that's kind of how I want to emulate myself to be like him. And then, you know, you look at a guy like, you know, Coach Saban and Coach Belichick, and, you know, how they're so cerebral and, you know, they really don't have to scream and yell. I mean, you rarely see, I mean, obviously blown coverage, things like that. You see, you know, because the camera's always on Saban, right? When you watch Alabama play, you know, if that guy sneezes, the camera's on him. But I think when you get to that point in the culture that it's taken us 3 years to build this culture here, there's an aura about, you know, we have this, our hashtag is the black shirt defense. And what does it mean to be a black shirt? And I kind of, you know, emulated, you know, kind of like Nebraska, you know, the black shirt defense. But we have the kids know, like, if you're going to play defense at Palmetto, you got to have a mindset. Like there's no room to be jogging to the football, loafing. We call it being a traitor. Like you're not going to be a traitor, or you're going to go play. I mean, I've literally in spring practice, I've literally taken kids out of drills and taken their black shirt and given them a white shirt and sent them to the offense. Because to me, that sets the precedent for it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not willing to do what everybody else is willing to do, you're just not going to be a part of it. It's not that you're a bad person. Just this isn't for you. You can go play offense.
I like that though. That's pretty cool for you guys. Now, speaking of defense, you've obviously written some books on the topic and you've done some different, you know, presentations. What defense do you run and why do you run that system?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 4-3. My head coach was very good friends with Coach George Walsh at Virginia, who was Al Golden was the DC there. Mark D'Onofrio, actually his first college coaching job was coaching me as a senior in college at a small FCS school. And, you know, my coach was at Miami recently, and then he was at Houston with Major Applewhite before they got let go. But, you know, I'm a 4-3 guy by trade, but as offenses have evolved, I think if you don't evolve with the offense, you're going to be stagnant. And I think that's going to end up hurting your kids. So I would say I'm going to play the defense that best fits our personnel. So like we have evolved this year to a bear front, also into a 3 high safety look package, because that's what our personnel dictates. So in other words, I want to put our kids, and our coaching staff wants to put our kids in the best position to be successful. And I think at the end of the day, as a coach, that's what you want to do, because we keep it simple. Like people will look at our tape and be like, oh, you guys are doing all this stuff. And like, no, not really. Like we want you to think that, we want you to think that we're being as multiple as we are, but we're really not, because we just want our kids to, and coach, as coaching defense, you want your kids just to go, man. You don't want them thinking. If they're thinking, they're playing slow, and then by that time somebody's right, right by them. So I would say philosophically a 4-3 guy, but now what I do is every offseason we look at, okay, who we have coming back, what should we do, and what colleges do we need to go visit to make ourselves better as coaches.
So as a defensive coordinator, I worked alongside our defensive coordinator a lot the last couple of years because he knew that I'm highly interested in becoming a coordinator myself. Maybe not so much a defensive coordinator, but I won't trade the experience for anything. For coaching on the defensive side of the ball will make me a better offensive coach in the long run. And so I had to help him out with the practice organization and all that kind of stuff. So I'm interested to know, as the defensive coordinator, how do you organize defensive practice to get the most out of your time?
So I will, when we meet Saturday mornings, we'll review the tape and grade the kids. Then we'll look at our next opponent and the breakdown and all that stuff. And then as a staff, we'll say, okay, what do we need to do this week to be successful? So I'll take ideas from our linebackers coach, our D-line coach, and Nick and I work closely together. Like I said, Nick's a former player of mine. So it's really cool to have a guy that you coach as like your right-hand dude. Because I remember coaching him when he was 17, 18 years old as a linebacker for me. When I was young, I was 26, 27, as a coordinator. But we'll say, okay, we always need to do a walkthrough. We get the garbage cans out. Always got to do walkthrough. And then depending on what type of team we're playing, we'll send the box guys, linebackers and D-line will go down and they'll go through run fits. And then we'll work on with the outside linebackers, and the secondary we'll work on pattern match, and then we'll work motions and checks and things like that. So that way we're both working at the same time. We get about a half hour for that. We'll tackle every day, whether it's individual or like tomorrow and Wednesday, we'll do our 4 tackling stations that we'll get 20 minutes to do to make sure everybody's, we're working on our shoulder tackling and keeping our cleats in the ground, and, making sure we're, not over pursuing and things like that. And then really looking at the game film from the previous week, it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to do something different with tackling. Maybe we need to do a different turnover drill. So it's really like a week-to-week thing of what we need to do to be successful. Our head coach gives us, as much time as we need, which is great. He'll say, okay, the practice schedule is out. You go ahead and type it up and edit it in Google Sheets. We'll edit it. And then, he'll give us whatever we need, and he'll mirror with the offensive guys. Because we really only have like 4 or 5 guys that go 2 ways. Everybody else is one-way guy. So I would say, like, to look as the defensive coordinator is to look at what you need to change from the week before, but also too, like, do we need a blitz period to work on our angles? Do we need a screen period for the defensive line? It's little things like that I think get overlooked, because I think some guys assume that their kids know it. I'm always in there something that they don't know it, so we have to teach it and make sure that they understand. Okay, what is your pass rush lane? What does this mean? What does that mean? And like today we were in uppers, so we were doing a lot of high tempo stuff. But as you probably know, Coach, high school kids, a lot of them don't know how to practice in uppers, because it's like we got to kind of get after a little bit. Like, hey, it's okay, just don't go low. You still start up top, just don't go low. So I would say that. I would say looking at yourself from the week before, and then also kind of adding everything into your previous week's practice plan to make yourself successful.
The next question that I had for you here, it's an interesting one that I ask a lot of defensive guys. It's one that I ask myself a lot. It's, what offense do I not like preparing for? Now, if I were to ask my head coach, there's this one team in our district that we play every year, and last year we played them twice because we played them in the playoffs. They run foot to foot double wing.
Oh yeah.
And
Old
old school. And, we had better athletes than them, but in both times that we played them, we found ourselves down 14-0 pretty quick. We came back and won both of those games, but if I had to say an offense that my defense coordinator hates facing, he hates that. He hates watching it on film because he's a spread guy. He loves the spread, and he's like, I'm gonna bang my head against the wall if I have to watch Superpower anymore. He doesn't like those old school offenses because he finds them boring. Which, to me, because I love all offenses, I don't find them boring, but he does. So if you had to choose an offense that you just hate to prepare for, what would it be and why?
I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
First one is any type of option offense, triple option, split back veer, flex bone, and because again, it's you really need the kids to understand that they can't look for the ball. They need to stay disciplined. We faced our first game this year. Naples High School is a split back veer team. Now they're the traditional power down here. We were the first Collier County team to beat them in 7 years, and the first team to shut them out in 14. Their running back from a couple years ago, Ches Maluski is the backup running back at Clemson. They got a tight end that's playing for the University of Miami. Right? They usually got dudes. So the split back veer flex bone, definitely number one for me, because it's option football, and you're relying on 16 and 17-year-old kids to do their job for 48 minutes. And you're just holding your breath. Every time the quarterback pulls the ball, you're like, somebody, you're just, and then I would say second would be spread with a athletic quarterback run game, because it's just the numbers in the box, especially when they have guys outside that are playmakers, and then you got to worry about them. But also too, now they got the back with the quarterback outnumbered in the box. I think that honestly would keep it keeps me up more at night than the option stuff. Because you can draw everything up great. You can have your kid in the perfect spot to make a play, but that quarterback is more athletic than your linebacker. Then you got yourself a problem. So I would say those two. Just for the aspect of high school football and discipline, and then obviously the athletic quarterback in the run game, and with the spread ad and the numbers in the box.
I would have to say that you and my head coach, who's the defensive coordinator, the head coach, he would agree with you. He's a big power spread guy, and that's what we have evolved into. We spread to run the ball.
Sure.
And our best athlete is our quarterback.
Yeah.
And he can do both. He can throw it and he can run it, but he's a better runner than anybody else on our team. And like you said, you get that extra blocker with running back or a little bit of misdirection. Those defenses don't know what's coming.
No, it's tough, because you're, like I said, you can have the perfect pressure call, or you can be in position to make a play. But at the end of the day, us as coaches, we can only get those guys on the right spots. We can't tackle the quarterback for them. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure that you drill the heck out of it and just hope you can hang on until the cavalry gets there.
Yeah, and there were some games last year where I think we had a called quarterback run 15 to 20 times a game. He was that good, and we got him back this year. So hopefully in Virginia we get a season this year.
That would be good for you guys, man. I hope so too.
Yeah. You are also the recruiting coordinator on your staff. Could you describe the duties that you perform at that position?
It's really, I really love it. I love helping kids, man. We're fortunate. We have 4 Power 5 kids on our team. 2 wideouts, a tight end, and a running back. The 2 wideouts are seniors. The tight end's a junior, and the running back's a sophomore. So post-COVID, with those 2 underclassmen, we'll get a lot of foot traffic in just for them. And those guys are easy. Caleb Cousins is 6'5", 225, and he's a tight end defensive end. Jaden Booker is 5'10", 220, and ran for 1,200 yards as a freshman and 10 touchdowns last year. and has 6 Power 5 offers. You know what I mean? So like those kids are going to get offers. Like we have a bunch of guys that, coach, I just want to play football. So it's okay. Making sure they have social media set up, making sure that they're especially now because coaches can't come visit. I got to make sure I text everybody and just say, hey guys, make sure you get your highlights updated on Huddle because coaches are looking. Making sure their transcripts are sent when they need to be sent. Making sure that they're scheduled for tests, ACT and SAT. Making sure they understand the sliding scale with the NC2A with eligibility. Making sure they understand the FAFSA form needs to be filled out. Doing Zoom presentations on recruiting to the parents so they understand what's going on and crushing some dreams. I mean, to be honest with you, what do you mean my son's not division? Well, he's going to be a senior and no Division I school has contacted him. Now, if you want to try to get him to walk on, we can do that, but that's going to cost you money. They'll take you as a walk on. They don't got to pay for you, but just kind of getting the kids to realize that NAIA is okay. Division II is okay. Like, go get your education paid for because at some point football is going to stop. I think the social media and the self-gratification of the kids today is, everybody wants to be D1. Well, how about being D2 and getting everything paid for and getting a degree out of it? And coach, as well as I do, if you want to go to the league, they'll find you. They will find you. Division III. How many guys from Mountain Union are in the NFL? It's you know what I mean? So it's a lot of work, but I really, really enjoy it because we're going to have last year was the biggest signing class in the history of the school. This year we're going to double that. And it's a testament to the hard work the kids are putting in the classroom and on the field and in the weight room. And, it's just awesome. It's great because we're going to have almost 20 kids at that signing table. Crossing our fingers, we can have it at the signing table. But yeah, that's that. And just setting up camps for the kids and talking with coaches and just, they'll call and say, hey, we like this guy. And I tell the kids, I'm going to be honest with, because I'm not going to burn a bridge with a college for a kid behind you. So like, if you're not a good student, if you're a pain in the butt in class, I'm going to let that college know because I'm not ruining my reputation and you're not going to ruin something for a kid behind you. Like, I'm not going to lie to a college coach just to get you an offer. You have to do all that work. You have to be attentive, be respectful, do your job, do your work. Make sure you're on time to class. Don't be late. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a lot of work, but I love it. It's a lot of work, but I absolutely love it, man. It is a great feeling when you see those kids sign that letter of intent and know that, because a lot of the kids in our school, to be honest with you, they come from nothing. Like, they have zilch. And you get them a full scholarship somewhere, there's no better feeling in the world, man.
Yeah, football is one of those things that, especially today, you got a lot of people who don't understand it. They haven't been part of the game, and they're like, well, you can still go to school without football. Yeah, you can, but football is a pathway to further education for a lot of kids.
I mean, football, and I say it to the parents, football is a vessel for their education. If playing football is going to get them to the school they wouldn't get to without football, go play.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Coach. I've had that discussion with lots of parents before. Even, D3 doesn't give scholarships and D2 it's partial, but, we've sent kids D3, D2, and
sure,
they're still playing, but they're getting a great education out of it too. So, yeah. Last question, because I don't want to keep you up too late tonight, Coach. You've coached for the U.S. national team. Couple different stats here. Head coach for the under-17 Stars in 2018, the U-17 Select in 2019, and the Japanese U-17 in 2020. Could you describe your experiences doing that?
First and foremost, USA Football is one of the, if not the most first-class organization I've had a chance to work for. I've been involved with them since 2008. I'm also a master trainer for USA Football, so I go across Southeast and talk about heads-up tackling and safety protocol and everything like that. The national team program is phenomenal. Aaron Ingram, Charles Tedesco, Al Pops, those guys. And then on the master trainer side, Andy Ryland, Rashad Ellaby, just great people to work for. The national team program, I can tell you that there is no better experience as a high school coach to be representing your country, but B, to be able to do it on a stage such as AT&T Stadium. It's a great, and you're coaching just phenomenal kids, great families, like people that just love the game of football. It's just something that I really can't put into words. I mean, it's just to go out on that field and be wearing the stars and stripes. And, I had, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. I had 2 uncles that served in Vietnam. So for me, it's very personal, to do that. And the kids that I've coached and the staffs that I've worked with have been great. This past January that, Coach Ingram had asked me, if he's like, do you want to coach the Japanese team? I was like, Coach, if you need me to do it, I'll do it. And the cool thing was he let me pick my staff, and I got to bring my high school position coach, 2 guys that mentored me, that coached with my head coach in the 80s, older, guys that are older. And then 2 of my buddies from down here in Florida and another buddy from New Jersey. And the experience with those kids was phenomenal. And I told those guys, it's going to be the easiest week of practice of your life, because you tell those kids something once, it is done. It is done. And we ended up winning that game this year against the U17 national team, 28-20. In the 2 previous years, I think we beat Canada on that Ontario All-Star team by like a score of like 128-7. And again, that's a testament to the hard work the kids and the coaching staff put in. The thing with those games is I've done 5 in a row. I did one in 2016 as the U15 DB coach, and 2017 I was the DB coach for the U17 Japanese team, actually. But the thing with that is you have such a limited amount of time. You really organization needs to be on point, because you only have 7 practices plus a scrimmage to get a group of kids ready, a group of guys ready. That's one thing our staffs did a phenomenal job of, is that like we had both our playbooks were games in January. By mid-December, everything was done. Everybody talked. This is what we're going to do. I sent out the practice plans. This is how we're going to set it up. So we landed in Dallas and we met. We hit the ground running. But those experiences are something. I mean, it's great too, because like, my wife will send me a picture of my kids watching the TV, and they have their stuff on, and USA stuff. And as a husband and a father, you can't. I mean, it's just a great feeling to have your family, support you like that.
Well, Coach, this has been an awesome podcast. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
No, this has been great, Coach. This has been great, man. I love, and anytime talking football, man, I love this. Is good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to have you on another time. Maybe you mentioned culture before. Maybe we can have an episode that's mainly on culture, because I love talking culture too, because that's another thing I've been deep diving into. But yeah, I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Sure, man. Absolutely.
Awesome. This has been Coach Sheffer, and we are signing out.